It's a leftist tactic to try to say, like, you're out. I don't like your opinion on X, so you're out. And I'm going to push you out by labeling you this terrible thing, because that's what the left does. They label you the terrible thing, and then you're out of polite society. It's a leftist tactic. I really object to it. It's also a leftist tactic to try to make somebody say something, which is also being done to me. And all the more reason why I just won't. You know, I've said before, like, I'm not going to go after Tucker. I'm not going to go after Ben either. I'm good friends with them. I'm just not doing that. So I don't care if you don't like it. Candace is not a good friend of mine. I know her a little, but we're not friends. But I'm not going to go after her for a variety of reasons. Number one, we, before this whole thing started, had a very nice, like, connection over something. It's personal, and I have no desire to stick a knife in her. And number two, the more you insist I must, the more I want to tell you to go pound sand. And now that it's like the stakes, you must, you have to. No, it's a no. Okay, BLMers, I didn't raise the fist, and I won't be saying whatever you want me to say. To your, chagrin, I might have said something. I don't know. I don't keep a daily monitor on other podcast hosts, but if they cross on my newsfeed and I find it interesting, I might comment on it. But now that you've made it the stakes of our relationship that I must, now I really won't. And you know what? I'll be fine. No, wait, but I want to get back to the Tucker thing, because it's also true that Charlie hated Nick Fuentes and Nick Fuentes hated Charlie. And Charlie definitely did not want to see Nick Fuentes platformed or in any way emerging as like a reasonable figure in, polite society. And I'm sure he would not have liked the fact that Tucker interviewed him at first. He probably would have sent Tucker a text saying, like, why? But I do believe once explained to Charlie why, he might have softened on it. And even if he didn't, he had nothing but respect for Tucker. He looked up to Tucker. He looked up to him. He was, a lot older than Charlie. He was like a mentor, Tucker was to Charlie. And it would have been, I think, something that Charlie would have come to understand and listen to. That Tucker, I think, was trying to reach this young man as maybe only Tucker can. He's got a very similar audience of young men, to say, we don't do collectivism on the right. It's evil. We don't put whole groups of people into categories and then demonize them because we have a problem with one or two. It's unholy. And if you watch that interview that he did with him, I personally am convinced it was about Tucker trying to reach Fuentes, not Tucker trying to launch Fuentes in a bigger and more profound way onto the national scale. And by the way, if that's your goal, it's not helpful to say, you're an anti-Semite, you're a bigot, here are the 25 most incendiary things you've done. Right. And that's not really something Tucker ever does. He didn't do that with Andrew Tate when he had him on. He didn't do that with the president of Iran. It's just not him. I am that way. I am prosecutorial for sure, which is generally why these people won't sit with me. But he has a different style. So I just think people are totally understanding what the whole thing was about. And I think in some ways misunderstanding. They're misunderstanding what this whole thing's about. They're misunderstanding Charlie to a bit too. Anyway, spent more time on it than I expected to, but I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've seen Tucker go. I mean, Tucker does go after people sometimes. I think he was like that with Ted at some level. He went after him. He was trying to corner him into certain positions. And I like that Tucker approach at times, particularly when, he does it certainly with people on the left. There's a good part of me that would have loved to have seen that approach with him going after Nick Fuentes in that way for some of those crazy reviews.
But if the goal were, as I said,
right,
would that have been useful?
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to say. Because as someone who's been in this conservative media space for a while, I know a lot of, conservative media executives who have there is among the younger conservative set, there is a group of people that and I've heard some of these executives describe it this way, of people who they were worried about they might get lost. They might go down the road of real anti-Semitism. And they are being sucked in by some of these online forces we discussed earlier. And there is an opportunity with a person like that, especially as they're developing and they're trying to find their way. We all have views that are way different than we did at 20 and 22 and 23. And the way the media has worked is it's launched a lot of these people through social media into people that have audiences of millions and millions of people who get rewarded with the stronger and more outlandish and more controversial takes that they have. I was all about antagonizing everybody when I was 20 years old. Like, I thought the funniest thing in the world whenever I could say something that would piss somebody off. Yes, I know. It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe. But when I was in that, growing up, like, you know, and coming of age politically and as an adult, like, you struggle with that stuff. And I've known people who are in the conservative media who've looked and targeted people and said, this person's really talented and they have great views, but I'm worried about where they will go. I will try to bring them in. Now, I don't know that Fuentes is one of those guys. I think in my view, probably not one of those things that ship has sailed. I think that one's sailed. But that may very well have been what he was trying to do. And, you know, look, I've had Tucker, Glenn and I have had him on the show many times. We've done events with Tucker. I've never sensed from him this, you know, this terrible human being that I see described. He seems to be thoughtful, but he is in an interesting place. Like, some of the stuff, you know, some of the content that he does is not. It's not. I like the Cato era Tucker maybe a little bit more, but that doesn't mean that everyone gets angry and throws everybody out of the movement. It's much more effective to talk to people. As you mentioned, probably what Charlie would have done is send a text and say, "Hey, I don't know. Are you sure about this part?" He didn't do it when Charlie, you know, was around, so we don't know. But I think that there is a line that we can all see, and at the very least should unite us to resist what the left is trying to do to us with all of this. These conversations are important.
We can't become them.
We don't want to become them.
We cannot become them.
And we don't want to give them what they want either. You know, what they want is all of us torn apart.
That's right.
And so the coalition that Charlie was trying to legitimately build with a lot of these exact names disintegrates. That does not help us. It does not help the movement, and it doesn't help the country. It doesn't help our children. So we have to figure out a way to get through this. But having these conversations, I think, in a respectful way, like I know you've tried to do, is I think the best path forward.
Yes, I mean that's really what I want. I have so many wonderful, like, suffering Jewish friends who really are desperate themselves to see Israel out of the news. They don't want Israel or their religion being bandied about and discussed and debated. It's like they just want to go back to being like normal, private people whose connection to Israel, if they have one, or whose religion isn't constantly being debated, and who aren't seeing their fellow Jewish people get murdered on American streets like we saw in Washington, D.C., not to mention the pain that the whole thing that with 10/7 and the 2 years that followed has caused them. And then people on the other side who have just, you know, they've had it. They don't want to see any more risk come by America getting sucked into foreign conflicts like we saw with Iran and so on. It's like, this thing just needs to end. It needs to end. Now, I will say one other point, since we kept going. Turning Point is having an event in December. I'll be there. Lots of us are going. And Tucker apparently asked Mark Levin to debate him at the Turning Point event, or so says Mark Levin. Mark Levin went public by reading Tucker's texts saying, you know, he asked me to do this thing with him, and then just went off about how over his dead body would he ever share the stage with this disgusting anti-Semite, and like just a vile attack on Tucker, whom he's literally been comparing to a Nazi. And I just think this is so far beyond. We just finished like a several year period where we tried to make clear to the left that those terms are not acceptable in the public dialogue. They are too incendiary. They're going to get somebody killed, like President Trump or Charlie Kirk. With him, it was fascist. With Trump, it was both. And we should not be resurrecting terms like that to attack or undermine fellow conservatives with whom we have a disagreement on Israel. Here's just a little of that.
Then we have on the fascistic, neo-Nazi, radical right. And by the way, I'm not talking about constitutional conservatives. Not in the least. We're not on the radical right. We're right in the center. And I don't mean ideologically, I mean we're right in the center. We support the Constitution, the Declaration, the founding, and everything that was done to create this nation. How can we be right-wing? Right wing of what? These people are not America first. America first isn't evil over good. America first isn't tyranny over liberty. America first isn't sounding like the Marxist, Islamist, anti-American Jew haters. That's not American at all. That's not America first, second, or third. No, they're aiding and abetting people who want to destroy the country. They want to destroy the country.
Yeah. Fascistic, neo-Nazi, radical right. And that is no way to be talking about Tucker. It's too much. It's too far. It's dangerous. And honestly, like, I know Tucker and Ben both, they are both under serious threats. Like, to be honest, I am too. Like, this is a very volatile time. I don't like to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm just saying, I know both of them are under serious threat. So just fucking put a lid on it, fucking Mark Levin, because I guarantee you, the wrong people listen to that, and we could have another powder keg on our hands, and you don't want that. You don't want that on your conscience. Just have a debate like a man on principle. And why don't you show up at the Turning Point event and debate him? Just debate him. That would be so good for this conservative movement you claim to love so much. You know who's at the Turning Point events? Future conservatives and current conservatives, young people. Young people. This would be a chance for you to influence somebody under the age of 70. You should show up there and debate. Why wouldn't you debate? He's so disgusting you can't debate him. I can see not debating Nick Fuentes, to be honest. I can. But Tucker, he's so far outside the mainstream. All the Jewish friends I have in my head who text me all the time, like, this is my father. They would all debate Tucker. They would love to debate Tucker. They've got their facts ready to go all day. Why won't he do it? And why is he sounding like a leftist shill with his rhetoric, just trying to dismiss people as like these horrible, bigoted people who you can't even stand next to them on a stage? Stu, this is not good for America First or the conservative movement, and it's manna from heaven for progressives.
Yeah, it's look, Mark is on Blaze TV. That's where I work. We have people who are very much opposed to Mark also at Blaze TV. It is a conservative movement has a wide mind on this, and I agree with you. Like, I don't, I think the debate would be great. I'd actually really like to see a debate between Mark and Tucker. I think that would be actually really interesting. And I agree. As I stated, I think tonally that it's not a helpful approach. I understand, there is a real concern, especially by people who have, put a lot of thought into what has happened over history when it comes to this particular issue. You really want to make sure you don't go down these roads. And I as you pointed out, like, I don't think there's any value in hearing Nick Fuentes' thoughts on these things. Personally, that's just, my thought. I know, Ben Shapiro, I remember what year it was, he was the victim of the most attacks on his, racial or anti-Semitic or, religious-based attacks on the internet. He was the biggest victim of that for a time. From the alt-right. Yeah, from the alt-right.
Which is the Fuentes crew.
Exactly. And so, like, I can see he's probably legitimately spent millions of dollars on security to protect his life and his family's life because of these threats. So I get why the passions can be really high on this. I don't know that any of that, I think a reasoned debate between people who are in the movement, it can be really helpful and doesn't escalate this stuff. That's the stuff that I think Charlie was trying to put together. I think Charlie would have loved an event where those two guys argued those things.
It's the one time of year that Birch Gold Group gives away free gold with every qualifying purchase. That's right. For Black Friday, when you convert an existing IRA or 401k in whole or in part into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold, Birch Gold will send free gold to your home for every $20,000 purchased. Gold started this year around $2,600 an ounce. By October, it was over $4,000 an ounce. Why? Global uncertainty. 2025 has been defined by trade wars. Central banks are pulling from the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency, and military tension continues to build. Gold thrives in times of uncertainty. And if you are looking to diversify your savings, Birch Gold can help you. Plus, now through November 30th, get free gold with a qualifying purchase. Just text MK to the number 989898 to claim your eligibility and for a free info kit on gold. But your opportunity for free gold with purchase will end on November 30th. So don't wait. Text MK to the number 989898 for full details. Message and data rates may apply. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.